All right, in 13.5, we're going to solve square root equations, but today they're going to be quadratics, not linear like yesterday. So it's going to take a couple more steps. So yesterday, this was our plan. We isolated the square root, we squared both sides, and then we solved the linear equation. So notice we have a few more steps today. So once we square both sides today, we're going to have a quadratic. So when we set that quadratic equal to 0, then we're going to factor it, set each factor equal to 0, and then we're going to have to make sure to check our solutions because we may have extraneous solutions in today's lesson. So it's really important that you check them. So let's just dive in and look at some examples. So here I have the square root of x plus 9 equals x plus 7. So if I square both sides, that's what I need to do first because it's isolated. If I do that, I have x plus 9 equals x plus 7 squared. Now that really, remember x plus 7 squared really means x plus 7 times x plus 7, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this onto the left side and FOIL it. So I'll have x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49 equals x minus 9, or x plus 9. So I just flip-flop the sides of the equal sign. Now I'm going to combine like terms. X squared plus 14x plus 49 equals x plus 9. Now I need to move these terms over to the right to set it back equal to 0. So I'm just going to put the x terms with the x. X squared plus 14x, this x will become a minus x, plus 49, that 9 will become a minus 9 equals 0. So now I'll have x squared plus 13x plus 40 equals 0. Now we're at the place we're going to factor. All right, this is why that factoring unit was so important. So we're going to multiply to get, in this case, a 40, and we want to add to get a 13. So if you think about your factors of 40, 8 and 5 will work. I want them both to be positive, looks like. And since there is just an understood coefficient of 1 right there, I can just use the shortcut and go make it x plus 8 times x plus 5 equals 0. So now we solve. So x plus 8 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0, and I have x is equal to negative 8, and I have x is equal to negative 5. All right, looks good, but now we have to go back and check. So remember when you go back and check, you need to show me which one you're checking. So let's check that negative 8 first, and I'm going to go back to the original equation and plug that in. So it's going to be the square root of negative 8 plus 9 equals negative 8 plus 7. Well, negative 8 plus 9 is 1. Negative 8 plus 7 is negative 1. Square root of 1 is 1. That does not equal negative 1. So that means that x minus 8 is not a solution. So that one's checked. Now let's check for negative 5. Same process. Put in negative 5 plus 9 equals negative 5 plus 7. So I have the square root. Negative 5 plus 9 is the square root of 4. And this will give me a 2 on the right. Well, the square root of 4 is 2 equals 2. This checks out. So the negative 5 is a good answer. So just box the answer that makes sense, that works. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so this one, we need to do some isolation before we can square both sides. So I'm going to move that minus 3 over with a plus 3. So now I have the square root of 17 minus x equals x plus 3. And now we're going to square both sides. Okay? So I recognize this is going to FOIL here on the right. So I'm going to move it on the left. So it's going to be x plus 3 times x plus 3. When I do the squaring on the left, it's going to come out as 17 minus x. So let's FOIL this. I'll have x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 17 minus x. If I move these terms over, move the x over, it's going to be x squared plus 6x plus x plus 9, and that 17 will become negative. So I have x squared plus 7x minus 8 equals 0. All right, so I'm multiplying to get negative 8, and I'm adding to get a positive 7. So 8 and 1 work, but they got to be different signs to multiply to a negative, and I want it to be positive, so that means the 1 is the negative. Again, the shortcut can work here, so I'm going to use x minus 1 and x plus 8, and I solve them, set each one equal to 0, I'll have x equals 1 and x equals negative 8. Now it's time to check. Let's check these answers. So let's check the 1. So 17 minus 1, square root, oops, minus the 3. I forgot the minus 3, didn't I? Equals 1. Let's see. So that's the square root of 16 minus 3. Does that equal 1? Well, 4 minus 3 does equal 1. So this one is a good answer. The 1 works. Let's try the negative 8. So 17 minus a negative 8 minus 3 equals negative 8. Let's see. 17 minus a negative 8 would be plus 8. So it's going to be the square root of 25 minus 3 equals negative 8. Well, that's 5 minus 3. Does that equal negative 8? Well, no. 2 does not equal negative 8. So that means the negative 8 is not a good answer. We've checked it. We're good. Now, number 3. All right, we got to isolate the square root first, right? Well, that means I need to get this plus 3 moved over to the left. So I'm going to subtract 3. So I'll have the square root of x equals x minus 2. Now we're going to square both sides. Again, look, we're going to have to FOIL this, so I'm going to move it to the left. So I have x minus 2 times x minus 2 equals, on the right, when I square the square root, the x pops out. When I FOIL, I'll have x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals x. Move that x over, it becomes negative. So I'll have x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Now we factor. I'm multiplying to get a 4. I'm adding to get a negative 5. So 4 and 1 work, but if I'm adding to get a negative, that means they both need to be negative. And again, the shortcut will work. So I'm going to say x minus 4, x minus 1 equals 0. When I set each of these equal to 0, oops, and I solve, I have x equals 4, x equals 1. All right, so let's find out if these work. Let's check these. So let's check x is 4. All right, so the square root of 4 plus 3, is that equal to 4 plus 1? Well, let's find out. What is the square root of 4? It's 2 plus 3. 4 plus 1 is 5, so 5 equals 5. This one works. So that means that 4 is a good answer. Now I'm going to check the 1. So the square root of 1 plus 3, is it equal to 1 plus 1? Square root of 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Well, let's see. Does 4 equal 2? No. So this is not a good answer. So this one, and all of these had just one answer that worked. That doesn't mean that all of them will do that. Sometimes you're going to have both answers that work, so it's important that you check. There is the possibility that none of them will work, but that's not going to happen on your assignment today, so don't worry about that. However, you always want to check, because sometimes both of them will work, sometimes only one, especially on your assignment today. So make sure you do your work, show your work neatly so I can follow it, and let me know what questions you have. Good luck.